What's good, Bills Mafia? Welcome. Welcome to the Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show. My name is Thomas DeLaus. I am your host. I'm the guy that's going to be leading this ship for wherever this crazy post-game show might take us. I'm here to take your calls, to hear what you have to say in regards to today's Buffalo Bills victory, which, as we're sitting here, they're wrapping up the final couple seconds of that game. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to call in. I want to hear your voice. This is a show for you, not for me, even though I'm here. This is a show that I get to listen to your takes, to your opinions, your feelings, your emotions amongst this entire game. Now, obviously, we saw the last couple of weeks have been incredibly difficult for this Buffalo Bills team. They have faltered amongst a lot of great opportunities. They've fallen short when they've had leads. They've really questioned our integrity as fans, quite frankly. We've had to sit there and say, is this the same old Bills, or is this the team that we thought that started the season, coming out 5-1, that was going to be the team that was leading the AFC? What is this team? What is the defining moment of this team? What is the narrative behind this team? That's what we needed to find out. We may have found out some things here today. I think one thing that we very quickly found out today with the Buffalo Bills is they may have actually a really nice complementary run game. I think James Cook has finally cemented himself as a trusted asset amongst the Buffalo Bills. I think they've finally gotten him into a role that makes him feel like maybe he's got some comfort going there, that maybe he actually is seeing things a little bit clearer. It's slowing down a touch for him. That tension going into the season as to who was going to be that guy behind Singletary. I think we might have that guy. I think we might have that guy in James Cook, and I think we also might have a really nice guy in Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary has proven so far that he looks really, really good. When the rubber meets the road, it looks like he's really, really good. Let's see. My mic is apparently not working. Let's take a look real quick. There we go. That should be much, much better. Does that sound better to you, producer man back there? Beautiful. My brother Ian's the producer, by the way. He's the one that produces our other show, which you'll see behind us on the backdrop. That's Buffalo Late Night every Mondays at 9:30 Eastern. Always here on Buffalo Rumblings Network. Now, part of the show tonight, obviously, as I said, is we want to hear your calls. We want you to click on that link that I just tweeted out that Buffalo Rumblings is going to retweet. You'll see it. It should also be in the show notes as well. Click on that link. You can join us in this. And I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what your opinions are. I want to hear what you're mad about, if you're frustrated, if you're happy, who you think the player of the game was today. Because we saw Matt Milano, again, a guy that has really been the calling card for this defense outside of Jordan Poyer, who unfortunately has missed a lot of time. Matt Milano has proven very quickly that this guy is not just an average linebacker. He's not just a good linebacker. He is an all-pro linebacker. He's a guy that has, in very short order, been a absolute monster for other teams to have to handle, from sideline to sideline, causing turnovers, tackles for loss, being in coverage, knowing where to be, shooting the gap. I mean, his defensive integrity is some of the best in the NFL. And you're seeing that this defense without him is just not as good. You're also seeing that this defense without a Tremaine Edmunds is not as good. I think we're slowly realizing that this offseason, it might be time. It might be time for the Buffalo Bills to actually extend Tremaine Edmunds. I think Tremaine Edmunds has proven in short order again that he is a guy that this defense truly depends on. You look at his statistics throughout this season, and he has proven time in and time out that he's a guy in the run game, in the pass game. He is so pivotal. His 6'5" wingspan is something that causes havoc in terms of just the ability to being able to stop that pass over the middle, which you've seen was a big deal today. The running game through the middle was a big thing today. Now there are some stuff, are some things that the Bills do in fact need to clean up on. One of them, that third down offense. That first probably single drive of the game, they had a couple tackles for losses. They had a couple short yardage gains of 3 and 4 yards, and then they had some massive, massive plays on third down. 17 yards, 16 yards, and to cap off that drive that they scored on, a 25-yard touchdown. That's stuff that has to happen. That's stuff that has to be changed. Now, there is one thing that obviously needs to be talked about, right? One thing that needs to be talked about in regards to this game is the fact that when you look at the
the week that we had, right? The Bills dealt with 77 inches of snow, right? 77 inches of snow, the most amount of snow in Buffalo Bills history in one single day, right? Not Buffalo Bills, but Buffalo and the city of Orchard Park and Hamburg and West Seneca, right? They had 20 or 77 inches in 24 hours. That's obviously something that the Bills had to handle. And not only that, they only had one single practice, right? So obviously you saw that there was illnesses in the team. There's been an injury plague that's been hitting this team hard. But then on top of it, this snow. So the fact that they came out the first half, I mean, some would say it was a little concerning. Bills Mafia Rock, Bills Mafia Rochester, and don't be this guy. He tweeted out in the first half when it was 10-3, the Browns were up 10-3, that maybe the Bills should start thinking about the idea of firing McDermott. Don't be that guy. I understand, hindsight's 2020, but at that same time, the Bills were in striking distance. Things were going great. Things weren't going great, but at that same time, the game will get to where it needs to be. They will get to where they need to be, and they have gotten to where they need to be. They proved it. There were a couple hiccups at the end of this game, obviously, but for the most part, they had that game in hand in the second half. They were able to do what they wanted in the second half, and that's a huge part of this Bills offense is, kind of getting into the groove, getting into the into the moment for the team, and that really comes down to Josh Allen, right? Obviously, Josh Allen has to get back into the groove. I think we've seen time in and time out the last couple of weeks. It just seems right out of the gate that Josh has not gotten back into his rhythm. That rhythm where you sit there and you say, man, this guy's unstoppable. Man, he can make every pass. When it's 3rd and 16, 10 years ago when it was 3rd and 16, I just don't think, you could sit there and feel confident, right? That somebody would actually be able to get that first down. But now you're seeing that, right? With Josh Allen, when it's 3rd and 16, you expect him to get it. Well, that hasn't been the case the last couple of weeks, right? We haven't seen that same offense that has hit, those same strides. Hopefully now we're seeing that possibility, right? That possibility of the Bills offense having more pass and run balance. We saw today with the statistics for today's game, the Bills had 186 yards passing, 171 yards running. It's probably one of the more complementary and balanced Bills games that we've seen thus far, at a 5.8 yard per clip for play, for yardage, and then in the running game looked really, really good. They were running at 5.2 yards per clip. Fantastic start for them. James Cook had a very big game in terms of what they were able to do. The team itself looked really good. Devin Singletary, 18 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And then James Cook, 11 carries, 86 yards. Obviously his best game to date as a rookie. And he's starting to prove that he is a monster in terms of this offense. The rest of the offense, not as productive in the receiving game. Dawson Knox being the leading receiver, 7 receptions, 70 yards with a long of 23. Gabe Davis, 5 for 68. And then Stephon Diggs, probably his slowest game in a while, 4 for 48, 1 touchdown. That late touchdown in the first half, right in the second quarter, really propelled the Bills to kind of, I feel like seal the game at that point. It seemed like at that point, the momentum was really on their sides going into the second half, where then they got that field goal. But I'm doing a lot of talking here. I see a lot of you watching. Click that link, join the show. I want to hear some of your opinions. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to hear what your thoughts are on today's game. Jump right in and, have a little bit of a heyday. We had Eric right here, Tyler Bass, player of the game. 100% agree. Tyler Bass has been really good. I know there were some questions. I heard some, Twitter is a angry machine, right? Twitter is that group of people, that drunk aunt on Thanksgiving that says too much. I feel like Tyler Bass is one of the most important pieces on this Bills team, and has proven it again and again that when we need him, he comes through. And he does it again. Today was a big, big day for them to be able to actually step up and have somebody kind of be a steady force for them, and that's what he was able to do. Another fantastic Bills game for Tyler Bass. We got Joe Miller in the house right here. A little misspelled "Let's go Bills." Love it. Aside from all that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple big things. I had some notes. I took some notes today during the game. I was over at my parents' house, my wife and I, and first thing I wanted to say was, man, we need to get Nyheim Hines the ball, right? Nyheim Hines, so far this season, has not really had a huge impact in the offense. He should. Hasn't had a huge impact. But man, in that return game, what we've seen really quickly, he has been impactful. But we got a first caller right here. We got Jared. Jared, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Hey, how's it going, brother? It's going well. Got a good dub today. Just two things that I kind of wanted to point out was our CBs kind of did get torched a little bit. I think having Trey and Kyer come back, that'll be a big addition going into like the last half and into the playoffs. And then another thing I just wanted to talk about, you had just mentioned it, was Nyheim Hines. He really stood out today in the kick return game. I hadn't seen anybody look that electric running from our side of the field off a kickoff in a while. So
yeah, I'll tell you, with Nyheim Hines, like you're saying, I think the last time we had somebody like him, you're talking Terrence McGee, maybe a little shade of Leotis McKelvin sometimes. But yeah, Nyheim Hines very quickly has proven that he is an absolute commodity. I think using him in some jet sweeps, kind of what that Isaiah McKenzie was doing, kind of getting him in some dump offs or screen passes, which I feel like the Bills absolutely need to get involved with. But to your other point, it was a tough game for our corners. Dane Jackson had his hands full. And here's the thing. And I know, we got Jay Spence in the lobby as well. One guy that Jay Spence will say has got some dog in him is Amari Cooper, one of the best route running wide receivers in the NFL. A guy that I think a lot of people underestimate. A guy that for a long time, even when he was in Dallas, he was underestimated and underappreciated. He is a unbelievable wide receiver. His ability to adjust with his body, his hands are clean, they're soft. He really brings in the ball when it's kind of at that contested catch point. Dane Jackson did. He had a really, really tough day. And again, like you said, once we have Trey back, that's going to be huge. And then you saw Jordan Poyer as he gets healthier. I think that's going to be big.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot for having me on, man.
Absolutely, Jared. Have a great day. Thanks for calling. Thanks for being the first caller, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
We got Jay Spence, the King, in here, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Spence, the
What's
King.
up, man?
What do you think? Tell me what you're feeling.
Listen, it feels good to be on the winning side again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, there's still some things that I could be critical of. I'm not going to be. I'm just going to enjoy the W right now.
For sure.
But, listen, it's just good. Isaiah McKenzie had the 2-point conversion, didn't quite go his way, but it's okay. He tried. Davis had a better game than he's had recently. I need him to have these games consistently. That's, good. The running game was a lot better than what we've seen. I think this is what everybody's been asking for. Let Cook run the ball. Let Singletary run the ball. I am a little disappointed with the defense. We kind of let Jacoby Brissett look like Josh Allen. He's out here, shaking off defenders and running for first downs and throwing for 1st and 30 or whatever it is. And it's like, come on, man, what are we doing? So, but like I said, I'm going to focus at this point on all the good things, man. It was Josh doesn't look 100%. I don't know what's going on. I have no clue what's going on with Josh, but it doesn't matter. We won, and that's what's important. So now we got to turn around in 4 days, get another dub, be 8-3 at this point, and then I think Bills Mafia can kind of breathe again if we get this win come Thursday.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think this game was. It's been very replicated or apropos for what the Bills season has looked like in the past 3 games. It's been a lot of ups and downs, very much of a roller coaster. And it's tough. You can't win like that, at least not consistently in the NFL. And it's kind of surprising considering, Coach McDermott's calling card is consistency. That's something that he has kind of preached for the longest time since he started here in Buffalo and even back to his days in Carolina. I think that, these are things that he needs to clean up. Like you said, a lot of really bright spots. You saw that fantastic catch by Gabe Davis late in the game that he just didn't get his right foot back in. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. And I think that's, hopefully, I said to my wife on the way home, hopefully this is a turning point for this Bills team, that hopefully we can sit there and say that this isn't the team that played the last couple weeks, because you saw they came out in the second half. The big snafu for them was 3 points each of the last 3 games in the second half. They were able to put up a lot of points in the second half. I think what did they put? 18 points in the second half right there?
Yeah, we got the one touchdown, which is encouraging. But again, I don't want to be the first guy to jump on here and be negative about anything, but I don't want Tyler Bass kicking that many field goals. Like,
Right.
obviously, you want to have a guy that's able to do that for you when it's needed, but you want Josh Allen to be able to come in there and kick the ball. I mean, and score the ball. I don't know. Again, I can't tell if his elbow is really, maybe it's more sore this week than it was last week, or maybe he kind of, I don't know, but he's not connecting with Stephon Diggs the way we're used to seeing. You know, Dawson Knox stepped up. So yeah, there are good things that you could look at and say, maybe we turned it around going forward, and maybe this can be, you know, and then on top of it, the cherry on top is now that the Jets lost 10-3 to the Patriots in a snooze fest, and I think it was a pick six at the end that lost the game. So, you know, what a time. You know what I mean? What a time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's what the NFL is. It's a fickle league. Every single week you're going to get something different. But you're right. There are just too many things that have to get better. I mean, the ending. I was telling Joe Miller, and I used a very inappropriate word. I didn't realize he was on speaker with his daughter and his mom. But I said the game's getting close. It better not happen the same thing, as last week. And lo and behold, you almost had an onside kick, turn everything sideways. Aside from that, let me just give a couple hellos to a couple people. We got Stephanie Meyer right here from Germany, all the way from Germany. Love it. We got Richard Rush, another regular in here. Pamadonna. We got obviously Joe Miller, the man with that StreamYard link. Love to get maybe a little bit Joe Miller on this show right here. But that being said, yeah, Spence, I agree. There are just some typical things that you'd like to see every Bills team clean up, stuff that I think just makes them a better team. And then there's some critical errors that you just can't have happen. Those 50-50 balls, it really seemed like Brissett was just launching them. Really, it wasn't even like it was a great pass. It was just kind of just chucking it up there. And that's something that just can't happen. You're talking about when we start playing the best quarterbacks in the playoffs, you're not going to have room for error. You're not going to have room to make these mistakes. And then the other thing, in regards to Josh, it almost feels like with Josh's play that it was like when he got that injury back in his rookie season when he hit his elbow. Because these passes, they're going high. He had a couple of them that to Knox in the first half that went really high. He had the one to Cooks that was way out wide. He had another one to Singletary. Just it's not looking clean in general. Pamadonna, I agree. Hines he was fantastic. I said that with the last caller. I think you have to get Nyheim Hines into the game. You have to get him involved just in general. I think his ability to get explosive plays for them. I think it's great that he is the punt kick returner. Just flipping the field and giving us the best possible field position has been huge. But aside from that, just having a little more speed, a little more explosiveness, that's what Isaiah McKenzie was supposed to be. And if he can't be, maybe have Nyheim Hines take that role from him.
Well, I'll tell you what, Hines, he's made me the most comfortable on special teams since I've been for years now. My guy, Andre Roberts, left Buffalo. And ever since, I've been the one, maybe there's been a couple, but I've been, as far as Buffalo Rumblings is concerned, I've been the one guy that's been like, oh my God, we're short at special teams. Like, we need to figure this out. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why we weren't able to kind of figure out, but I tell you what, Nyheim Hines looks great right now, and he's doing it. And he's, I don't know where you went, man. You left me, but that's okay. It's okay. I was able to go with it. I've
got a brand new mouse that has these little buttons on the side, and I accidentally clicked one of them, and it took me back a page.
It's all good. But yeah, I was just saying though, like, Nyheim Hines absolutely made me comfortable with special teams. Like, every time they kicked the ball to us, whether it was a punt or a kickoff, it was like, you know what? I'm okay with it. Like, he's either going to have us starting at the 25 or it's going to be positive. And every time it was positive. So, when you have a weapon like that on special teams, and then I agree with you, get him involved in the offense. If we're lacking as far as like that slot position, or if we're lacking with anything, that's one of the things that Brandon Beane specifically highlighted when we traded for him. He said that he can line up into the slot, he can return punts and kicks, and he can run. And he talked about how he's just like a weapon in every sense of the word. Okay, well, let's see him active in some different ways. Put the ball in his hand, give him some space, and let him make things happen. But overall, like I said, it was a big dub. I think Cleveland is better than the record shows, and I think they're in a lot of games. If you watched any of the Cleveland games, man, they're always in it, and then they just seem. It's kind of like the Bills a few years back when we had a really good defense and we were always in the game by 6 or 3 points, and then we just didn't have the quarterback to do it. And right now, Jacoby Brissett is playing well, but he's just not a franchise guy. So when Deshaun Watson comes back for the remainder of the year, and then next year, I think Cleveland will have something to say. But they have a solid team. They're just, unfortunately, the ball is. A lot of times the ball isn't bouncing their way. I do want to, before I jump out of here, I do want to give some love to Matt Milano. Played a heck of a game. And then Jordan Poyer to come back. He played literally with a half an arm out there, man. And he made some big tackles. He got, I don't know if you saw the play where he tried to tackle Nick Chubb and got dragged, literally got dragged, and still was able to drop the guy. I love it. So shout out to Poyer, shout out to Knox, shout out to Milano. You guys played big today. I got to go back and look through and give everybody my grades, but man, heck of a game.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Spence, so thanks for letting me jump in here, man.
Yeah, buddy. We'll see you
soon. All right. Go Bills.
Go Bills. Now, speaking of what he had to say, I actually want to throw it a big RIP today. Found out earlier today that Jason David Frank. I don't know if you guys were Power Rangers fans. I was a big Power Rangers fan growing up as a kid. He was Tommy in the original Power Rangers, the Green Ranger, then the White Ranger. Passed away today. Huge, just hole in my heart from my childhood. My dad told me I had the Power Rangers gloves. I had a Power Rangers birthday cake when I was a kid. Sad note. So all you Power Rangers fans, but I see a lot of people watching, 36 people watching right here. Got a lot of people watching all over the place. Click that link. Come join me. I want to hear what you have to say. Even if you have no voice, Richard Rush, let's hear half of it. Pam, I want to hear you. Stickman, let's hear what you have to say. Guys, I want you to pop in. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me your emotions. Tell me what you're thinking about next week. Whatever. What are you having for dinner? I don't care. Hop right in. Give me your emotions. Aside from that, I'll tell you, we got to start talking about Ken Dorsey, right? There's got to be a conversation that I think has to maybe partly being had about Ken Dorsey. I know it's his first season, but there's some questions, right? There's got to be some questions about play calling, about getting Josh in a rhythm, trying to do plays that are going to make it easier. That was one thing that Dable did last year. And the first, 4 years of Josh's career was get some easy plays, some plays that made Josh more comfortable in the pocket, some plays that made it easier on him, that got the offense in a rhythm, got the offense moving, that got the defense on their heels. So what we need to do, I think that's something that, potentially needs to be said. Maybe for a little bit, Dorsey needs to be down on the field with Josh to get Josh's emotions, to get Josh's feelings on the sidelines, to get in his head during the different, defensive series. I just think there's something that there's a separation or disconnect between the two of them that has to be changed, because as of this point, there's just too many mistakes that are being made and too many just I feel like neglectful decisions that have to at least be accounted for. Why are we not getting Nyheim Hines more involved in the offense? What did it take to today to get the running game more involved? Why are we not getting Shakir involved in the slot game? Why are we not in the first half having more targets to Stephon Diggs? I mean, there should be scripted plays for Stephon Diggs, whether it's to get him open or just to get him the ball, just get the ball in his general direction. Figuring out what's going on with Gabe Davis and why his hands are failing him. There's just got to be some questions that I feel like as the offensive coordinator, you need to figure out. You need to step up and say, hey, we need to fix this stuff. We need to get in here, because you can tell it's bothering the team as a whole. Josh is frustrated. Just like Eric said right here, do you think McDermott and Diggs on the sideline was a big deal? I don't think it was. I think McDermott was encouraging him. That was actually a point of conversation between my dad, my brother, my wife, and my stepmother, was that exact situation. Because it felt like that was a big moment. That's a moment that you've seen other wide receivers just, even you go to what's his name? The wide receiver from the Steelers, Antonio Brown, when he took off his shirt and ran off the field. Those type of moments, right, where a wide receiver can make it all about him. He didn't. He was letting coach know his frustrations, and you could tell it was a moment between the two of them. And I think that also speaks to the culture of the team, right? You don't see those blow up moments on the Bills sidelines all that often, if ever, right? You see a team that is connected at the hip, a team that has a lot of emotion, a lot of love for each other. That's big. When the rubber meets the road and the season gets long, because guys, we got to remember, and I think that's something that maybe we need to talk about, is the fact that right now, this is a long season. These guys are dealing with a lot of emotion, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of tough times. And unfortunately, when it comes to stuff like this, you need them to band together, and those are those moments. But right now, we got a former Bills player popping in to give his opinion on today, Mr. Jerry Ostrowski. Jerry, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. How you doing? Good to see you.
Doing good. I like the backdrop. Very nice. Beautiful.
Thank you. My wife worked on that for quite a while, so I'm not the organizer, believe me.
You got a good wife, man. My wife's the same. Very supportive. I love it. Jerry, what did we think about today's game? Tell me.
Well, first of all, I mean, this is a team that's overcome an incredible amount of adversity. Obviously, everybody thinks it's easy to pack everything up and change plans and go to Detroit. And while it's maybe not as monumental as people might let on, I mean, this is tough. I mean, they've had a really rough week of preparation. They weren't in on Friday. They were online. They went virtual for meetings on Friday. Had a tremendous amount of players that probably didn't get many snaps all week long because of illness. You're fighting, which is almost a unprecedented amount of injuries on a football team. So the preparation this week was very choppy and very sparse. So I think the biggest thing is, and you saw that this team was better as the game went on, and without the full pad reps, or at least helmets and shoulder pad reps in practice during the week, it's hard to go out there and just get after a running football team right off the bat. So defensively, they struggled a little bit early with that run. Chubb had some success. You don't have Edmonds in the middle. You miss him. But overall, I think a very, very important win for the Bills, and a win that, it's hard to win in this league. And when you face the adversity this team did all week, and then they come out and they win the way they did, I think that's a definite positive you can take away from this.
Right. Yeah. And that's the really, like I was just saying before I popped you on here, is, the season's long. I mean, right? I mean, it's, with the NFL, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, right? You need to be able to go through the entire season, and you have to weather the storm, no pun intended, right? I mean, you really need to go through. And the one thing people keep forgetting, and I feel like this is something that has to be said, this team has been plagued by injuries, right? And for a franchise that for the last almost 5 years has been, I would say, the run of excellence in terms of having almost no injuries. I mean, they said it was about the performance center. It very well could have been. But they've just been hit with the injury bug. It's just been something that they've had to handle. And the fact that they're 7-3, right? I feel like the sky, they everybody feels like the sky is falling. The Bills are 7-3. You go back to the mid 2000s, mid 2010s, we would be clamoring for the idea to be this team right here, right? So Jerry, I got to ask you, as an ex-player, right? In a situation like what had happened this past week with the snow, what goes through your head as a player? What goes through your head in trying? Because I mean, you as an NFL athlete, right? As a person that does and deals with a general schedule in the season, how do you have to? I mean, you have to adjust, right, to like the constant change of never knowing what's going on.
It's difficult sometimes. A lot of these guys are very, very regimented in their health and how they take care of their bodies. They have massages at the same time every week. They do their certain things every week, and now all of a sudden you're disrupting that. But I think the thing that I want to say about all of this is all great teams at some point are formed, through fire. They're formed through adversity. And this Bills team that has seemed to have had it pretty good up until, recently, they're becoming that team. There's nothing that can be thrown in front of them that they have not already experienced or felt. And that's the way I look at it. If I'm on that football team, if I go ahead and I put myself in that locker room, I walk away from today's victory saying, you know what? I feel pretty good about this. Josh Allen threw for under 200 yards. We did not play at home. We played in Detroit, and we'll have to stay here for a Thanksgiving game. We're incredibly beat up and injured, and we somehow found a way to get this victory against a team where I understand it's the Browns, but they're still a formidable team. They're a physical football team. They're an AFC, they're a team, the AFC Central team that will run the ball, can get after it on defense a little bit. So I'm feeling really good right now about what happened. I'm excited about where we are. Once we get, down the road a little bit, get a little healthier, that'll be great. But again, I don't think anybody can really fully understand just what it means to be able to come through the adversity this football team has come through, get that W, and show that they can win in other ways because, Josh didn't have that huge day today. He was very, you could say was workmanlike, 18 to 27. No interceptions, was sacked twice. But I like the way that he performed because he did what? He did not turn the football over. And
That's key.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge, especially what he's been doing lately with the football, especially in the red zone. And then the offensive line stepped up and had a good day as well. So, but no, if I put myself in that locker room, I'm saying to myself, I'm walking out of there, there's nothing they can do to us. We've seen it all, and we can come out victorious on the other side of it.
Right. And you could speak to the fact that they all stand for each other. Like when Josh had his troubles in the last 3 weeks, even Diggs is saying, that's my guy.
Right.
I'd ride or die with him. Right. And then you go to Von Miller, and Von Miller asked about, Coach McDermott. He said, they asked him, like, has this been tough for Coach McDermott? And he said he never gets too high, never gets too low, just very even kill. And he handles things in stride, which, Jerry, for you, having Marv as your coach. And then I believe did you have Wade as your coach at the end?
Yeah, Marvin Wade, and was there for a quick second with Greg Williams, but Marv and Wade were my coaches when I played.
Right. So you had two guys that are very even keel, right? Just guys that were probably the ones that you could lean on towards some of the tougher points of the season. So I mean, that's huge.
Exactly, it's really huge, and I look at Diggs. Look at what happened today. Wide open, should have got the ball, should have had a touchdown. Doesn't get the ball thrown to him, and instead of going on the sidelines and basically, for lack of better terms, flipping out on my teammate and trying to grandstand and show my teammate up, he very quietly, without emotion, goes to the sidelines. He did have a talk with McDermott, but he did it with his mouth covered and in a way that it was not a distraction to this football team. And to me, it just shows, A, a tremendous amount of respect for each other, and B, that there are a ton of very strong veteran leaders on this team. And in times like this, that's what you need. You have to have those guys. And then Poyer, how can you not ride with Poyer? And I know I heard Spence talk about it earlier. He plays a great game. He's got 1.5 arms, man, and he's out there playing and getting it done. How can I, if I'm a defensive player that's healthy, how can I not go out and play at the highest level I can play, because I'm watching this guy behind me, lay it out there with one arm. And that's the types of things at the end of the year when you go ahead and you have that banquet and you start talking about your championship that you just won. What are turning moments of the season? And it's situations like this. This team is growing every day through adversity. And I think that as long as we have patience and we allow these things to happen, the end of this year is going to be a big deal. It's going to be pretty tremendous for us.
Yeah, tend to agree. I think, and this is the type of stuff that you want to have happen now, right? Like you want this stuff to happen mid-season, get all those wrinkles out, get all those issues, shake off the cobwebs, whatever, cliche you need to go with to get rid of all of the nonsense, and then get going into the latter part of the season. Because that's really what it comes down to, is none of this matters. Like we said earlier, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And if you can get there, and you get there at least in as close to one piece, that's what we're looking at right now. So
right. I mean, you throw 17 games into this with 2 bye weeks. The whole moniker of it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's like one of those ultra marathons now. When you talk about the extent of physicality that these guys, these players, are going to have to absorb, and the last man standing. It's not just about toughness anymore. It's not just about skill and athleticism. It's going to take a little bit of luck to win a championship, because it's going to be the teams that are healthy and are peaking at the right time. And I have to think that the Bills are in a good situation. Maybe they're getting rid of a lot of this injury bug and this bad luck early. So as they move towards the end of the year, they start riding that wave. And, you never know. All you have to do is get in. I mean, look at the Philadelphia Phillies. They get in as a wild card. Next thing you know, they're playing for a World Series and win 2 games and get close to doing it. So let's keep our eye on what's going on, and that's getting into postseason. Would we like to go with buys and winning titles as far as divisional titles? Of course we would. And it's still right out there for us. The teams we lost to, we have them again. We have them in Buffalo. We play the Jets. We play the Dolphins in successive weeks coming up in December. So we control our own destiny. So that's a very exciting thing for myself as a fan of the Bills.
For sure. Well, hey, Jerry, I truly appreciate you popping in with us today, my friend. And we'll have to do this together. I'm going to have to get you on my show, my other show now.
Thomas, it's great, man. I love it. I mean, I've been blessed to be able to be on Thursdays on the 3-Man Rush, and it's show. Been great. And it's, of course, anytime you need me, let me know, and be glad to hop on with you.
Yeah, and guys, for anybody watching, make sure to watch the 3-Man Rush, obviously with Jerry Ostrowski, Sarah Larson, and Colt Schroeder, Thursdays on Buffalo Rumblings. It's exactly. Awesome to see you, Jerry. Great. Have a fantastic Victory Sunday. You
too. I'll be wearing my shirt on Monday.
Okay, we got Joe Miller popping up next. So your overreaction post-game show, the voice of the overreaction post-game show, my buddy Joe Miller. What's going on, brother?
What's up? How you doing?
We're doing. Things are going smooth. We're 42 minutes in, and I only disconnected myself from the stream once, so we're okay. All That's things funny. Considered, it's all good.
I've got my own show to do. I just wanted to pop on a second and just talk about James Cook. As a guy that's been pretty critical of James Cook so far this year, and not critical in a negative way, just more about the game seemingly too big for him. And obviously the coaching staff kind of taking it slow with him. It was nice to see him running decisively, making good cuts, right, and all that stuff. Like his numbers, I mean, he finished the day, I think you said it earlier, 11 carries for 86 yards. And, contact balance is one of those things on the scouting report that they had talked about kind of coming in. And it seems like he might even be getting a little bit better with that. There was the one play where he kind of got bumped and wiggled his way out of bounds. Would have been nice to see him stay on his feet there and tiptoe the sideline. He's probably gone, right? He's probably still running. But just super impressed with this guy, with this young man, as far as just maybe finally seeing it, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I said to my my dad earlier, I think with Singletary and Cook, we might have a second coming of Fred Jackson and CJ Spiller. Perfect little complement to each other. Singletary's nice between the tackles. He can also bounce it outside. But man, a couple times today when Cooks was just daggering outside, man, he was taking those swing passes, those little sweeps, like the Madden sweep that you do to always try to get those extra yards. Man, he looks so fast, so quick, so elusive. And that's something we've desperately needed for years now, is just that home run hitting running back. And you're right. I think Cook, if he can finally see what he's looking for, and he actually can see the holes and the game slows down a little bit for him, man, I'll tell you, if he could be even 85% of Delvin, we've got a dangerous backfield.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be fun to watch. So, I got my own show to do tonight. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure to check the Overreaction post-game show with Joe Miller following this. See you at 8 o'clock.
Later, guys.
Joe, we'll see you, brother. I'll tell you, the game today was something. It was a game of ups and downs and ebbs and flows. It's a game where, just like Jerry said, right? You need to be able to weather the storm. You need to be able to get through all these different periods of times where it's not going to be the easiest, and that's a tough thing for Bills fans. And I I love Twitter, and I hate Twitter because you see a lot of things that people say about the Bills team. Overreaction nation really is Twitter, right? Where you have a lot of people say things that they probably don't necessarily mean, but they say it in the moment. I'm sure I have, I'm sure if you dug up a tweet at some point, I've been mad enough to say that I think McDermott should be gone. At least I hope not, but maybe. That being said, I think there's just a lot going on here that is exciting with this Bills team that could be coming to a head, right? And maybe it is just it's taken a little bit of time, right? You had that beginning part of the season when things were going smooth and everybody was figuring out the Bills again. And then you kind of get to the middle of the season, right? Where things are a little bit more difficult. Things kind of get sluggish. It's not as easy. It's hard to get certain plays off, right? They're not always scoring on that opening drive, right? But now you're seeing in this game that they're incorporating the run. If they can do these things, if you get more balance into the game, that's big, right? That's big in terms of being able to get this offense running. And we got the Trek reviewer with a little, I still think we need OBJ. We'll see. The report today was that he's going to wait till after Thanksgiving. I'll tell you, after the way the Lions shellacked the Giants today, 31-18, I don't know. We'll see. And then the other one's the Cowboys. But I don't know. I'll be honest with you. If the Cowboys are winning right now 10-3 against the Vikings, we'll see how that pans out. But if I'm OBJ, if I want to play with anybody, I think it's of those teams. I don't know if I wants to go to the 49ers. 49ers are loaded. They got a lot of weapons. I think the Bills have the best opportunity in terms of getting him the ball and getting it to him, early and often. Aside from all that, guys, join the show, right? We're 47 minutes into this show, and we'll keep going as long as you guys want to keep talking. And I love talking. Pop right in, and if you have anything that you want to say, I want to hear what you have to say about today's game. Good, better, and different. Obviously, we want to keep it at least somewhat respectful, but if you got some raw emotion, if you're driving home from Detroit right now and there's something that frustrated you and you're watching on your phone, please, by all means, from the car, give me a call. Tell me what you're thinking. If you are in your house and sitting on the couch and there's something today that bothered you about today's game, give me a call. Let me know. I want to hear what you have to say. We could bring up the fact that Ed Oliver had a great game. And that's the thing. He's been a little up and down, but when Ed Oliver is on, he is on fire. His ability to break through the line, to get that immediate pressure, to really cause a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett today to have to kind of move out of the pocket to feel uncomfortable. That's huge. That's huge for guys like Von Miller and what Greg Rousseau returns and Boogie Basham and Shaq Lawson, right? That's a big part of their game is if you can get the quarterback off his game and off of his rhythm and make him feel uncomfortable, that's big. And you saw those moments today, right? You saw where they were able to get up to him. You got to close down on that third down defense. Said it early in the show today. You got to close that third down defense. There were too many opportunities for them to make big plays. And that's the problem is it's not just, it's 3rd and 1 and they're doing a QB sneak, right? Like it's not the normal stuff. You're talking some big plays. Third down at the first scoring drive for the Cleveland Browns, right? Started the second quarter. They scored on a 25-yard touchdown pass. Can't happen, right? And obviously we know our secondary is banged up. We're missing some key pieces right now, and hopefully we can get those back. Kaiir Elam did not play. Still waiting on Tre'Davious White. Now, one thing I do want to talk about, I think it's something that needs to be said, and I was getting a lot of flack today. It's fine. I'll take it. I can take the heat. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Is Tre'Davious White, right? A lot of people are having some serious words about him, right? And I understand there's a little frustration. You want to see Tre'Davious White. He's getting paid a lot of money. He's a big name. He's a guy that's a big piece of this defense. He's your all-pro starting cornerback, right? Your CB1. We got to be patient, guys, right? And maybe it's because I've torn my ACL on both my knees. I get it. And I'm not saying I'm Tre'Davious White. I'm not trying to even compare myself to him athletically. I'm not. Trust me. But what I will say is we don't know what's going on, right? We don't know what they're doing. What we do know is this turf is the exact same turf as New Orleans, right? I don't know about you, and maybe the timelines were that he was supposed to be back by the Jets game, and then ideally you would have hoped it would have been the Vikings, right? It was a home game because the first thought was the Packers. Didn't happen. You didn't think MetLife they were going to put him out there. That field's kind of crap. You don't want his first game back on a so-so field, right? And then the Vikings game, you would have hoped that would have been the perfect homecoming, great game for him to get out there. Didn't happen, right? I didn't suspect these two games to be them, right? You don't want Tre'Davious White to come back off of an injury where it's a situation where he has to get acclimated and comfortable because obviously it's mental, right? A lot of injuries are mental. You got to hope that when he comes back, you put him in a good position to feel comfortable. And I don't think that's on this turf, right? You don't want to have him feeling questionable, because a big part of being a cornerback is you're not dictating the run, right? So a lot of people kept saying, like, Chris Godwin, why is he back already? And why is Tre'Davious White not? Chris Godwin is making the cuts. Tre'Davious White is reacting to the cuts, right? You're reacting to what the wide receiver is doing. So it's a lot harder on your knees. You're having to make quick decisions on the fly. That's a lot harder for a guy if he's not trusting his knees, right? If he's not trusting his body, if he's not trusting what his own DNA can do, right? That's something that he needs to do, right? If you're not confident in yourself, you're more likely to be injured. That's something they need to be very careful with him, because that's the other part about it, right? Just the same as he's protecting himself, they have to protect him, right? That's an asset. He's a very expensive asset at that they need to make sure they're protecting going forward. I, at the moment, what just said, and I apologize, I didn't catch it, was holding Browns to 80 yards rushing the story of the game. Yeah, I would say so. I think, just in general, holding the rushing, the two running backs today, I think was big, right? If you look at the running yards for Hunt and Brissett, right? You had 32 yards for Hunt, you had 19 yards for Chubb, 14 carries, 19 yards for probably the best running back in the NFL, and Nick Chubb. That's a big accomplishment, right? Big accomplishment. And I think that's another thing that we have to talk about, right? Is I think the Bills, when you look at their defense, it's a bend, don't break, right? And I know it's a little terrifying sometimes, because sometimes they might get gashed for a 20-yard run. But what you're seeing is they're not getting crushed, right? They're not getting crushed on massive games. They're not getting blown out. They're staying within striking distance. The problem is they're making mistakes in other games, right? Josh Allen had 2 interceptions in each of the last 3 games. That wasn't the deal today, right? No interceptions, no turnovers for Josh Allen. That was a big part of success today. That was a big part of his ability to keep the Bills in the game, right? Obviously, Josh didn't have a big game in the air. 18 for 27 for 197 and a touchdown. It was an efficient day, not a big day. And sometimes that's just what it is. You go back to Jim Kelly back in the day, and obviously there are 2 different offenses, but there were days that Jim Kelly would just have efficient days, right? Not big games, but efficient games. And that's what you need. Sometimes you need to rely on it, right? Singletary rush for 86 yards, James Cook for 86 yards. That's huge. You got 2 running backs rushing for 86 yards. If you can rely on that as a complementary piece to your offense, you're going to be successful, and you're going to be successful for a long time in the NFL. And that's something I think that needs to be said, is we need to get that running offense back into the fold, right? And that maybe that's the question. Maybe that's something that has to be said, is maybe that was what Dable wanted to do. Maybe that's what the argument between Dable and Coach McDermott was, is that Dable wanted a more complementary run game to Josh's passing game, whereas it seems that Ken Dorsey is allowing Josh to kind of dictate the offense. Maybe he's allowing more of an air raid offense, and I think McDermott's starting to see, and maybe Dorsey's starting to see, maybe we need to rein it back in a little bit. Maybe we need to incorporate that run game, because it's getting to the point where we can't have 90% of the offense, 93% of the offense run through Josh. It's just not sustainable, because if something happens, if Josh does have an injury, if Josh does have a tough game, there goes your offense, right? There goes your ability to sustain drives. There goes your ability to do anything at that point, right? I think what Joe Miller just said, I feel like the Browns didn't even try to do what they do best, run. It was odd. I do agree. It seemed like they not only were they not good at it, but they didn't do it. And for the one game against the one team you would have thought they would have tried it against, it would have been the Bills. Would it not have been the Bills to effectively try to run the ball? You have 2 guys in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb who are very efficient, or even better yet, I mean, you had Jacoby Brissett, 7 carries, 29 yards. He had that really nice one where he dipped out of the pocket and ran. They both look good, and so did Jacoby Brissett. I don't know why they didn't utilize him more, but that being said, let's hear more from you guys. If any of you guys want to pop in, want to hear you guys hear what you have to say. A lot of people in the comments, a lot of people watching, right? I want to hear what you guys have to say. Give me a call. Let me know what you have to say, what you're feeling, what your emotions, if you're mad, if you're sad, if you're happy, how you're thinking this game went today. Who was the player of the game? Who was the guy that you would say, oh man, had a rough game. Could have played better. Who was that? Right? I think there is some question to be said about the offensive line. Right, there's some things that we need to look at, and that was a point of emphasis this offseason, right? You bring in Roger Saffold, and one thing that I didn't notice, and maybe I'm not looking at stat sheets as much, but that Roger Saffold had his first hold of the season. That's huge. He's played well, right? But the rest of the offensive line, right? It's been tough because you've had David Quessenberry, right? He had a rough go of it, and then he was injured, and that's after our starting right tackle. Why am I blanking on his name? Our starting right tackle obviously had a tough game as well. He was getting beat off the punch. And then Deion Dawkins, man, I'll tell you, Myles Garrett, he is rough. Spencer Brown, thank you, appreciate it. My brain totally blanked there. Spencer Brown, yeah, he had a tough game. He was getting beat, but I mean, you're talking two very, very good defensive ends in Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett spun Deion Dawkins around. I even wrote it on my my notepad right here. I took some notes during the game that, man, did he put him in a blender. Myles Garrett's good. But yeah, maybe we need to look at that offensive line. Maybe that right tackle position is something that we may need to look. And it's tough to say because Spencer Brown has been injured. His back has been a big issue. All the way back to training camp. I remember sitting with Joe Marino and Joe Miller at training camp, and we were discussing who was the offensive line, who was the starting five. And at one point, I think we were sitting there and saying, "Holy cow, we might actually see the first practice with all five in its totality." But that even tells you right there that even at points in training camp, they didn't even have them all together on the field. And at this point, the season, they haven't even had them all together. So that's definitely tough. It's tough when you can't have health all be the same. When you're not a healthy team, it's hard to get any continuity and anything going. And like Jerry Ostrowski said earlier, that's something that, teams deal with. Obviously, the Bills have been beaten up with injuries this year. That's something that we need to hopefully clean up going forward. Obviously, sometimes you just can't fix it. The injury bug hits teams at the weirdest times. And I talked to Matthew Collar last week, right before my show, Buffalo Late Night, and he even said the Vikings, they've been lucky. They've been on the fortunate end of playing teams that have been hit by the injury bug. And that's one of the teams was the Bills. And even going into the Vikings game, today they're playing against a Cowboys team who's nicked up as well. So that's it happens. Unfortunately, teams go through these things, and it's really a test of endurance when it comes to playing in the NFL and who's doing the best. The other thing I think that we need to talk about is Gabriel Davis, right? That number 2 wide receiver position. Pardon me, I was going to take a sip real quick. Gabriel Davis has been really up and down. And I think for a lot of fans who came into this season thinking that Gabriel Davis would potentially take that step, that Gabriel Davis would potentially, be that guy that could take the lid off the offense, and has in moments, right? The Steelers game, he had those 2 touchdowns, the 68 or the 69 and the 98-yard touchdown, right? Big moments. We need to see more out of him. We need to see him actually be a more consistent force. You can't win in the NFL when you're only getting 3 catches a game, right? As a number 2 receiver, you need to be up in the 6 to 8 catches a game. You need to be up in the 60 to 80 catches a year type of category to really be a compliment to Diggs. Otherwise, you're making Josh and Diggs's game and really season a lot more difficult than it has to be. We do have K-Gun here. K-Gun, what's going on, man? Oh, you're muted. Can't unmute because they chose to mute themselves. K-Gun, you got to unmute yourself, my friend. Well, we'll come back to you when you figure out the mic situation. We can have Ian, my producer, figure that one out right there. But like I said, with Gabe Davis, obviously, it's been a struggle. He obviously had one of his better games today. Not better in terms of season, but just in general, he got a little bit more consistency. 5 catches, 68 yards today. But that's something that's got to clean up, right? Those drops. He had that early game drop. He had the early game drop last week. And then even in overtime, same thing. Unfortunately, those are things that they have to get better. Unfortunately, K-Gun is not going to be able to join us. But if you guys want to hop right in, we'll take a couple last minute calls right before we call this show. But aside from that, before we do that, and if anybody else wants to pop in, just want to give some shout outs. if you guys are watching, guys, make sure you're checking out all the great content on the Buffalo Rumblings Network, which now myself, obviously, we are hosting the Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show. And this is going to be immediately following every Buffalo Bills game going forward from this season and on. But there's also some great shows like the Overreaction post-game show with Joe Miller following this. On Monday nights, you've got Jay Spence the King. You've got myself in Buffalo Late Night. You've got the Chop Up. You've got Jerry Ostrowski's 3-man rush with Sarah Larson and Colt Schroeder. You got the Buffalo Nerd with Colt Schroeder. You got so many shows. I apologize. My brain is blanking. I gotta have a list in front of me so I can start doing this. But man, there's so much good content here in Buffalo Rumblings. I haven't said on my show. I'm gonna mess that up too. There's so much good stuff here at Buffalo Rumblings. Super excited to see where this goes. And hopefully with this show going forward, we can get more of you involved, get more people talking, get more conversation, because we got some good stuff. I'm still waiting for Pam Madonna to pop up here. She's always got some good takes, but she didn't pop up today. We'll see if we can coerce her to get up on here and have something to say. We got I the Moment with another comment. Do you think it looked like a stripped down playbook today with a lack of prep and all? A quick comment about the coaches achieved today, given the circumstances. I think it's possible. I mean, the thing about it is, and you have to remember, right? Obviously, there's different, game plans dependent on each team, and they obviously look at, some tape on each team, and they can still look at tape whether they're together or not. They have the actual, the tablets, and the coaches can actually send off tape and what they want each, position group to look at. So if Dawson Knox needs to look at something, right, his coach can have him look at that stuff. If Eric Washington wants his defensive line to look at certain gameplay of what the offensive line does, what their tendencies are, they can do that, right? But in general, when it comes to this, these guys have been together. This whole roster has been together for so long. There's not a lot of change, right? There's little wrinkles. The offense, you might see some new stuff with Ken Dorsey, right? They might change some stuff dependent on coverage and scheme. The big thing is really was with Jordan Poyer, right? Jordan Poyer being back, that gives Frazier a lot of ability to do a lot more disguises, right? That's the big thing about Jordan Poyer, and I think that people fail to realize is Jordan Poyer is so pivotal to this defense. They are able to be so versatile, so multiple. You can think he's lining up one way with DeMar Hamlin, where in fact he's going to actually be dropping back into coverage, and DeMar Hamlin runs up to the line, or even switching that, or they can bracket coverage a corner, a wide receiver, and actually help in coverage. That's the thing. It just depends. Is it possible they stripped it down? Sure. I think it's possible. Anything's possible in a week like this. You don't see very often. And I think the big conversation this week was, why didn't the Bills play? Why didn't they play in Buffalo? Right. This is not something that happens. Right. Not only was it a record-setting snowstorm at 77 inches, right, which my dad mentioned today is the exact height of Josh Allen. Weird. Aside from all that, you don't have this happen, right? You don't have snowstorms like this happen on the norm, right? You don't have a situation where half of Buffalo gets killed with snow and the other half is fine, right? Our own Joe Miller, right? He was flying back. He couldn't even get to his house. He was literally stuck at the airport. Couldn't get back to his house. That's insanity, right? You had Bills players that had to get shoveled out by neighbors. You had snowmobiles, right? All those things. Sickness that was coming. There was like 6 guys that couldn't practice because of sickness. This was an absolute comedy of errors of a week, right? They find a way. They have a script, right? They have a script for maybe a couple plays, right, at the beginning, and some things that they want to do. Maybe they go back and they say, okay, we're going to run the same script they did 2 weeks ago. Maybe not last week, but maybe 2 weeks ago. We'll run that same script. Maybe it'll work. It wasn't effective today, obviously, or maybe there wasn't a script at all, which is why the offense sputtered coming out of the gates, right? Maybe they just weren't able to, implement a game plan of, a lot of diversity, and throwing in a lot of wrinkles and stuff that was going to really confuse the Browns defense. You saw that they struggled. But I do think there is enough there. But the big thing is, like I said, it was a tough week for the Bills. There was a lot that was going on for the Bills that they had to overcome. And there's been a lot of conversation about things that didn't happen. The Bills won, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bills won 31-23. Yes, it was a little closer than we anticipated. Yes, they let them crawl back in at the end. But the Buffalo Bills are 7-3. The Jets lost. The Patriots won. We'll see what happens with I don't even know if the Dolphins are playing. Are the Dolphins on bye week? I couldn't even tell you. I didn't even look this week. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like the Dolphins are in fact on a bye week this week. That is right. So obviously they won't be impacted by all this, but the Bills are right there. You know, you have a team like the Buffalo Bills that are going to have ebbs and flows. As long as they can clean up those mistakes, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I said it on my show. As long as Josh Allen can clean up those mistakes, those errors, those interceptions, really the untimely interceptions, those are a tough out. They really are. Because defensively, I mean, they very rarely make backbreaking mistakes, right? You don't see it happen. Last week, Dalvin Cook broke off a 73-yard touchdown. That happens. That happens everywhere in the NFL. Probably, if we look at the replay, guaranteed there was a holding, right? But that's what happens in the NFL. The NFL is a game of ebbs and flows. You got to stay in the moment. As Von Miller said, don't blink, right? Don't blink. You got to stay in the game. You got to stay ready to play all week, all game. You know, like Jerry Ostrowski said, you know, sometimes weeks like this are tough, but that's when you band together as a brother. You know, you get your guys and you boost them up. You know, you saw Stephon Diggs, what he did with Coach McDermott. McDermott kept him up, right? And then Stephon Diggs got his touchdown and the game got rolling. Josh got confidence. The offense got moving, right? James Cook got moving, right? Those are things that you're going to see, right? And I think that's something that has to be said for this team is there's going to be ups and downs. What we need to do as fans is have the expectation, right? I know it's tough. And people have said, like, Josh Allen has ruined the NFL. Josh Allen's good, right? Josh Allen's a very good quarterback, and he's ruined the NFL, right? You can't watch every other team and say, that's not Josh Allen. He's not doing what Josh Allen does, right? Not a lot of people do. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, maybe. It looks like Justin Fields might be that guy, right? But not many, right? Well, not every game's going to be like that, right? Not every game is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs game where every time they touch the ball at the end of the game, they're driving and scoring, right? Not every game is going to be the Patriots game in the playoffs last year where they held the team in check and just scored at will. Not every game's going to be like that. There's going to be games that are going to be tough, right? You saw the Jags game last year. You saw the last 2 weeks. Tough games. And that's the other thing that you have to remember, right? You go back to that Al Pacino Any Given Sunday. Just don't know. Sometimes teams just show up and they're just ready to go and the other team isn't. What you need to do is you need to make sure that you do everything you can each week to be prepared and do what you can to prepare for any opportunity in any moment. And that's where you're seeing guys like James Cook, right? James Cook today got his number called. What did he do? He delivered. He delivered big. You know, you've seen guys step up in moments, right? That needed to be. Jordan Poyer playing injured with 1.5 arms. Dude's there, right? Matt Milano playing like a man on a mission today. Monster, right? You've seen it with Von Miller in moments this season where the guy has played unbelievable, has had just, momentum crushing plays with those sacks, right? Or strips. He had the one today. He almost stripped Jacoby Brissett, caught him from behind. Huge. That's what it comes down to, right? Don't blink, stay in the moment, keep going. Even when you're down, my wife and I, we coach high school soccer, girls high school soccer. And that's the one thing we tell the girls, right? You get down a goal, pick your head up. Game ain't over. It's not over yet. Until that final whistle, you keep playing and you play all the way through because guess what? Games are going to be tough. It's who can outlast and who can make it through the marathon the longest. So that being said, doesn't look like we have anybody else that's going to be popping in. It has been about an hour and 9 minutes. I feel like that's good for the first week. That'll be good. I love all you guys. I appreciate you guys all checking in for the Buffalo Rumblings post-game call-in show. Tomorrow night, you can hop right in with my show, Buffalo Late Night. I have tomorrow night, I have Greg Tomset from Cover One, and I've got Bruce Nolan, our guy from Food for Thought on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, right? I have them all tomorrow. We're going to be talking about some red zone deficiencies and what's going on with the Bills offense once they hit that red zone. And they're going to get really analytical. I don't know if you've ever listened to the two of them, man. It's all numbers. I love it. It's going to be fun. A lot of wiry stuff, right? So check in tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. And then after this tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at 8 p.m., usual, we got Joe Miller, the voice of the Overreaction postgame show on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. Check him out. He will have his usual show. It's real good. It's good stuff. Love Joe Miller. Joe Miller's my guy. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you. My name is Thomas DeLaus. You can find me at the Thomas DeLaus. I appreciate you guys checking in every single week. We will have this Buffalo Rumblings post-game show. Obviously, hopefully we'll get more and more of you involved, more and more of you checking in, more and more of you calling and getting your voice on the line. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start this like we always do, and we'll end it like we always do. Go Bills.